Hey guys, Kyle Porter here. Wanted to make note of the fact that in this episode of Shane Ryan, we actually talked about very briefly about Tiger Woods potentially playing the 2026 Masters. Obviously, that is not going to happen now. We recorded this before everything that went down on Friday and before he announced on Tuesday that he is not only not playing the Masters, but kind of stepping away from golf and his regular day-to-day stuff for a period of time, which I thought was a good outcome. I don't know if his statement was amazing, but I think the choice to kind of step away and seemingly get some help and try to work through some of this is obviously a good thing. So I thought if we didn't note that, it would sound weird. Why are they talking about Tiger playing the Masters? He's not playing the Masters. Again, we recorded this a couple days before everything that went down. So wanted to tell you guys that I do have a piece up on normalsport.com. If you get the newsletter, you probably saw it come through your inbox. Maybe you read it, maybe you glanced at it, maybe you archived it. I don't know. If you didn't read it, I would encourage you to. It was a weird one to write. I'm in a position of like, am I a journalist? Am I a fan? Am I just like a thought leader sometimes? I don't know. Am I just like a Twitter boy? Like there's so many different hats I kind of wear at different times, and I don't really know what my role is. So I just kind of usually end up writing what I'm thinking and feeling. And that's what I did with this one. And in this particular instance, in this story, that's a lot of conflicting feelings and thoughts. And that comes out in the piece. And, Tiger has always been, he's been in our lives for a long time. And it's hard to know, like, we have I have felt this, and I'm sure a lot of other people have as well, but such a parasocial relationship with him that it's like, what is my role here? Like, do I call him to account? Do I have empathy and move on? Like, I don't totally know what the right thing is to do there. So again, I just kind of wrote through what I was thinking and feeling and processing. And Tiger, I wrote this in the piece. I've never been somebody who's like, a super Tiger fan. I've always appreciated what he did. I appreciate the fact that he changed the sport that I cover in a huge way for a long time. And that's a cool thing. But I do think, and I'm glad for this, at least in this instance, that I didn't have to work super hard to kind of divorce my fandom of him and what he's done with like the reality of the situation. So anyway, go read that piece if you haven't, or glance at it, or don't read it, or whatever you want to do. But wanted to just note the fact that we did talk about him, and it's a moot point now because he's not going to be playing the Masters, and seemingly won't be playing any tournament golf for a while now. So hope you guys enjoy the show. Shane is the best. Always love talking to him, listening to him. He thinks about things in such a unique way, and is somebody that I really look up to as a writer, a thinker, and in this case, a podcaster. So I hope you guys enjoy the show, and we'll talk to you later. Welcome back to the Normal Sports Show. My name's Kyle Porter. We've got a great show today. We are sponsored, I guess I'll just mention it off the top, by Holderness and Bourne and Saps Original. We'll talk about both of them a little bit later on. But let's get to our guest, Jason Page. How are we doing?
Am I the guest today? I'm doing great, but I feel like
well, I said guests. You're not on every single. Well, I guess you are on most
I'm
of
producing today. You guys have a good conversation and just pretend I'm not even here.
Shane's the boss now. I'm pumped. Good to be here.
I want to say this before we get to Shane, because Shane and I will probably talk most of the time. Your work during the Players Championship, which I hope people at least saw bits and pieces of or whatever, was, I think, the best you've ever done. It was unbelievable. Your I got more feedback on your illustration of the rules official sticking his finger into the side of the hill with Ludwig than maybe anything else you've ever done, which I don't know what. That's very normal sport.
Hit a vein or something. Yeah.
I wanted to say that publicly because I've told you privately, but it was awesome.
I appreciate that. Those illustrations made during the Masters or the Majors weeks. Little slip there. During the Majors are kind of made in a big frenzy. So it's cool to see what pops up, and then also to hear some nice words about it afterwards. So thanks, appreciate that.
So are you implicitly
I was
saying
going to
that
say,
the Players is a major?
He just announced it. He broke it.
Aren't we breaking that news during this podcast? I thought that's why Shane was here, but
Yeah, for sure. Noted PGA Tour stan Shane Ryan, how are we doing?
I'm good. And Brian Rolap says hello. And all the executives.
He's just off camera, right?
He's off camera. And just like they wanted me to say, everything I say today is endorsed by all the executives of the PGA Tour. I'm speaking for them. Everything is 100%. Like basically, think of this as the PGA Tour talking.
For sure. Shane, it's great to have you. We always have insane and fun conversations at tournaments that we're both at, and we haven't chatted in a while. So I guess my first question for you is obviously about the big event of the spring, which is Rigamarole. How are you? Like, you're almost, I think you're 50 days in.
49.
I should disclose we're a sponsor of your inane quest. How are you feeling about it? Do you get discouraged?
Yeah, there's a lot of discouragement. There's mostly discouragement, if I'm being honest. One thing that was kind of funny is that the Players. So I just started. I had never posted on Instagram before I did Rigamarole, and so now I have like I don't know
what an entrance.
Yeah, I know. So this was the thing, and I had 0 followers. I hadn't done anything, and so any follower I have is because of Rigamarole, but it's not many. I had so many people come up to me at the Players and talk about Rigamarole. I mean, you're talking about like Jason off camera. We were like all the people that come up to you and you're like, "Hey, it's Tommy Fleetwood." That was me with Rigamarole, to the point where I was like, not many people watch Rigamarole, but I think they're all in this media room. I think literally everybody. So it's been really fun. I got the 50th episode up today. I didn't check with you on this, Kyle, and I should have as my sponsor, but I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to take the rest of this week off, and then I'm on vacation next week. So I define this as like the 50 days of season 1, and then we're going to come back for day 51 and start season 2. Just got today's episode up before we started here. So it's been fun, but I feel like, not to sound like Sergio, but I feel like I've been the victim of some serious bad luck not to have gotten 3 on more occasions. Today was a good example. No spoilers, but it's ridiculous that I didn't go 3 for 5 today. But yeah, it's been good. I don't know if your listeners, I should explain what this is. It's a very, very stupid backyard game where I try to get 5 different balls through like a bench 50 feet away on my back lawn. So it's incredibly stupid, but it's been pretty fun, and I think people have liked it.
Well, 2 things. 1, as your sponsor, I'm irate that you didn't check in about taking vacation.
Yeah.
And 2, I have anxiety, like pre-anxiety over you getting like 3 in a row.
Oh yeah.
Like I'd almost rather you just miss one of the first 2 than.
Oh, you mean because you don't want your sponsorship to end? Yeah.
For sure. Our return on investment is going to be like 1,000,000x because you're going to be doing this until you're like 73. But I'm fearful of you getting to that 4th one and feeling real pressure.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I've always been pretty good under pressure in sports, but I can't even get to that point here because I'm so bad at the skill level. It's like, yeah, it would be something. I got 2 in a row. The first 2 I got for the first time ever a couple days ago. And I'm trying to think how I felt with the golf ball. I felt okay. It's just like the percentages are so low that it's like saying you choked because you didn't make a hole in one or something at this point. You know what I mean? It's like, but we're going to get there. We're going to put ourselves in pressure situations. I think I may start practicing on the weekends. Like, actually try to, I've been avowedly not doing that. My rule is I don't warm up when I go in the beginning, but there's no rule against practice. So maybe that's the next step.
What does Rigamarole practice look like? Are you taking the objects to the range, or do you got a setup there?
I'm going to get a full hopper of tennis balls and just do it until I'm like 90% on the tennis ball. It is funny because it's like, there's no way I'm ever going to find another child's yellow bowling ball. So if I want to practice, I have to walk back and forth every single time doing it.
It's such a specific shot. Yeah.
Let's be honest. I'm never going to practice.
The bowling ball and the bat seems like the hardest one.
It is. I went off the post today, going 3 for 5, trying to get 3 for 5. I went off the post, and anytime it comes close and doesn't go in, you feel like fate has cheated you because it's so hard to get it close in the first place. So it was brutal. It was there was a near breakdown today after recommitting to positivity on Monday. It didn't last very long.
Well, speaking of, you have gotten, we interviewed you, I guess it was a year and a half ago, and you talked about how you have started playing more golf. Obviously, you've covered it. We've probably covered it about the same amount of time, 12 years, 15 years, whatever. Are you, I know you've got Rigamarole going on, but are you still playing a bunch? How's that going?
So I started to play a bunch in the spring after taking a couple months off just because weird weather and just sort of being sick of it. I love golf to play it so much, but I have this weird thing where, and I think I experience this in a lot of aspects of life, where if I stop something for a little while, it like psychologically, it just disappears from my head. I think my parents are both like this. There's this like, don't look back mentality where it's like, I never miss, I'm never nostalgic for anything in my past life or anything, but it filters into this thing of like, if I don't play for a month, I can almost forget it exists. And so I'm in this weird holding pattern right now where my friends keep texting me to play. And I'm just like, I just can't be bothered. And I'm very busy with Golf Digest right now. But I know the minute I start again, I'll become obsessed again and do it every single day. So it goes in these patterns, these ebbs and flows. So to answer your question, I haven't really played this year that much. And I need to get out there and do it. My handicap right now is, I think, an 11, which is close to the best it's ever been. But I'm playing in my handicaps tournament with my friends in a month. And I'm probably like a 20 right now because I haven't played in so long at best. So at the very least, I need to get out to get my handicap back up. Otherwise, I'm going to be terrible in this tournament. But yeah, so I'm just in a little bit of a lull right now in golf.
Yeah, I feel that. I also think the USGA needs to consider adding a how many kids do you have and how old are they?
Totally.
Number to the handicap.
Yes.
Like work that into the algorithm a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think the 9-hole thing is messed up. They need to, time off if you're after 40, number of kids. Work stress. You should be able to input work stress.
Yeah, you can put like what the weather was. Like you should be able to put how many hours you worked that week.
100%. Yeah. Like, was my wife upset at me? Was I feeling guilty for playing that day?
It's like strokes gained playing opportunities, basically.
Totally. Yeah. If Mark Brody would commit himself to the amateur game, all this stuff would be in there. It would be all baked in.
For sure. Okay. Last thing before we get to our three masters anti-narratives. So you've been in this for a long time. You've ridden a lot of different waves of media. We're always in an interesting time, but this one is particularly interesting because of AI. And I mean, I was thinking back, Shane, whenever we first started, I think your first like big golf-y job was Grantland. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the first big media job, period.
Yeah. So, and mine was at CBS Sports, and man, it was just writing. It was blog posts, it was essays, it was, stories from tournaments or whatever. And now we're expected to be these like multimedia mogul, like, just doing, being on Instagram and TikTok and all this different stuff. I'm curious about how you're feeling about the state of media in general. That's a huge question, but I know you think about this stuff a lot.
So I guess there's two different things. So on a personal level, you're 100% right that you're now kind of expected to be a 3-tool player or whatever. I've always liked video stuff. I learned how to edit video when I was in college. I love movies and stuff like that. And I also kind of like performing, or I like, sort of being in front of a camera and talking. So that stuff doesn't faze me. I kind of welcome that in some way. I really like that aspect of it and look forward to kind of getting better at it. But the problem is, the really dire thing is that writing is being so devalued. To me, it feels like it really is. I don't know if you noticed this, but it feels like we're spending less time on. It's very rare for a story to blow up, like a feature where everybody's talking about it in the golf world. I kind of measure it by how much we're talking about our friends doing it, or you doing it, or me doing it, and it's like, wow, it's just so much less now. I think it's like, I talked with KVV about this, and he had a good point where it's like, it's phone culture coming home to roost to some degree. It's definitely AI summaries on Google keeping people away from clicking on things, and just shortened attention spans in general. So again, personally, I'm like, okay, great, let's do video. That's fun. I've enjoyed doing it with the Golf Digest people. They're really good at it. But the broader thing of writing being devalued, fewer people reading, yeah, it's terrible. And as someone who loves writing and likes to write, it's scary, both on a personal career level and much more pressingly on a societal level, I think. So that's kind of the sum of my thoughts there.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's interesting. I've joked about this with Jason before. When people like if somebody comes up to me at a tournament or at the PGA show or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, I love your work," what they actually mean by that is like, I saw like 3 tweets that you like wrote.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and one of them made me laugh or whatever. And you're like, man, is that my work? Or is that like, it's been weird and really, I think kind of a bummer for both of us. Cause I think I speak for you. Like, I love writing and I love reading, and I think that those things are like, they're what I feel like is my wheelhouse and what I enjoy the most. And so if those are, as I say all this on a podcast, as those are devalued, I just don't know what that future looks like. And my hope is that as more information gets thrown onto the internet every day with AI and with, you have more and more and more content and information, then hopefully the human stuff, which obviously we try to do it in normal sport, you do a ton with digest and on your own. I'm hoping the value of that goes up, but I don't know. I don't know what that future looks like.
The problem is like the habits that seem to be forming in people, and a lot of people, when we have this conversation, we say the younger generation, but I think it's even in our generation. I think it's in like our parents' generation. I think it affects everybody. Totally. Yeah, like it's crazy when I hang out with my parents now, how much is just on their phones. And they're, I love my parents. I'm not knocking them, but it's like, this is what people do now. They just sit around on their phones, and it's very easy to do that. I kind of have to force myself to read books, even personally now, where I'm like, all right, it's time to sit down and read, because it would be easy to get in bed and just get lost in Facebook reels or something at night on my computer. I started a book last night of short stories by Flannery O'Connor, and there was an introduction by someone she knew who it was a 30-page thing, intro on her writing, her life, and it was like, I think this was probably published in 1970 or something, but it was like a time machine. It's like, oh my God, this is what people treated writing like. This is how seriously they took it. This is how big it was, how central a piece of the culture. And to transport to now, and it's like, Jesus, if I can get like 3,000 people to read a story I wrote, it's like, that's average, right? I mean, it's just crazy how much it's changed, how hard it is to get eyeballs, even on writing that's not very deep, right? It's like, I write this preview post for a tournament every week where it's 10 things. It's bite-sized little paragraph chunks. They're designed to be funny. They're designed to be very readable. People like them, but it's like, forget about it. If I do a video on Tree Island, like I did at the Players, 200,000 people are going to watch it, right? And it's going to be, a million comments. And it's like, if I get 7 retweets on my tweet about my written piece, we've killed it. We've killed it for the week. So it sucks. It sucks in a lot of huge ways, because even for us, it will naturally transform what we do. Right, and even the way we think, possibly. So it'll probably have the effect of, if it hasn't already, eroding our writing skills with time. But it's what makes stuff like you do so important. You are, I think, so interesting because you are committed to the writing thing, and you're really good at it, and you're succeeding. But you're succeeding in the way that I think it's always going to have to be successful from here on out, which is in this boutique way, where you have your audience and they find you. But it's not a mainstream outlet, right? It's your outlet, which is on one hand great and a huge success story. On the other hand, indicative of the larger patterns, I think.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. I it's funny. Like, I actually think you mentioned the younger generation, and it's easy to blame Gen Z or whatever. I actually think this is perhaps anecdotal, but like, it seems like there's more pushback from Gen Z on the digital, like, TikTokification of the world than from maybe our generation or even our parents. Like, I do think that, you see stuff about like, 25, 30-year-olds like going toward dumb phones and trying to have more IRL experiences and all these different things. And you're like, man, that's great. And I do wonder if there's going to be the same shift in the same way that, like, when our parents and grandparents smoked cigarettes and we were like, why'd you get, like, that's obviously like not what you should be doing. And we didn't do it, or did it a lot less. I do wonder if like the 25-year-olds are like, why are you guys on your phones all the time? Like, that's terrible for you.
Well, so this gets into an incredibly touchy subject, and it sounds like you and I are on the same page, but we both have kids, and it's like, my kids will not have smartphones, period. I mean, once they're out of high school, they can do what they want, but for those same reasons. But man, like try to have this conversation with people 10 years older than us. And it's like, they didn't know. They were giving their kids the cigarettes, right? Like it's like when their kids were 7, they had like smartphones, or, you know, maybe that's an exaggeration, but they were doing it, and nobody likes to be in that position of being like, did I kind of screw up? But yeah, so I think it's like important for people like us to do that, where it's at least give these kids like 18 years of free cell phone free existence so that they have that base. But also I think you're totally right about Gen Z. I've seen stories where these kids who are immersed in phone culture will say to the reporter, you know, en masse, a lot of them will say, yeah, I wish it wasn't like this. I wish I could get away from my iPhone. So even the people who are immersed in that, and I think sometimes they're framed as these passive prisoners that, oh, they don't know any better, and so they're just in this thing. They know it sucks, right? They know it's terrible, and they want to be out of it, and they hunger for human experiences and a deeper connection, because that stuff, even if you grew up in the YouTube culture or whatever, I think that's just part of being human. It's like, you know, that's out there, you sense it's out there, and you sense that this is not how you want to live your life. But again, it's not just Gen Z falling into that trap, right? It's kind of all of us who are, you know, tempted by the dopamine hits.
Do you think, by the way, going all the way through high school without smartphone, that's aggressive. How old's your oldest?
So yeah, it's like 8. So it's like, I know people are like, just wait. And I'm like, yeah, but you have no idea how tough and mean I am. Right. But like
sure.
I grew up with mean parents, you know, in a good way. I'm like, they can yell at me. They can hate me all they want. They'll thank me one day. I just always say like, I'll be fine. Yeah. Me and my wife are both jerks. We'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Put it on your LinkedIn profile. So our oldest is about to be 13. None of them have phones, but a lot of their friends do. And
yeah,
it's not necessarily harder to say no. Like, it's just been no. I think the one pushback I have against withholding throughout is that you never get to like teach them how to smoke the cigarettes. Like, if they're gonna eventually smoke the cigarettes, then
right.
you want to like be able to moderate it, or like be alongside them for it. I don't know why we're talking about this on a golf
smoking
podcast.
with them.
Smoking with them, exactly.
Me and my kids getting drunk on the internet.
Exactly. So I do think we will eventually jump into that, but we haven't yet. Are you gonna write more physical books?
Yeah, maybe. I think if I do, here's what I'm not interested in, is spending a year covering some golf thing, begging agents and players for time, and doing that. So, like, you know, the 2 books I've written are like that, and they were rewarding in their way, but that's over for me. What I would do golf related is something, if a story came around like The Match, right? If I found something where I was like, what an insane story this is, I can write the hell out of this and do
not
a
the Brooks
bestseller.
Koepka. Not the Brooks
No. No, the Mark Frost. Yeah. If I can write about Phil, the original Match, then because I think I could probably easily get time with Phil. I think that's simple. No, if there was something I could research and treat it historically and talk to people who wanted to talk to me, that would be cool. At some point, I'll write probably another fiction book. I've done a couple of those with, you know, just for myself, with no thought of profit or anything like that. So maybe something like that. But the 2 books I've written, I would never write another one,
because just commercially it's not big enough.
No, commercially, like the money was fine. You know, that was fine. Like the first one got on the New York Times bestseller list. The second one like did okay, and it would have come out in paperback if I hadn't been sued. And so I was, and it didn't come out in paperback. But that you know, that's not the issue. The issue is it's such a time commitment, and it entails so much travel. And I'm somebody with kids where I'm like, I don't really like traveling. I like doing it a few times a year. That's the perfect thing for me. So like going to these majors that I go to, that's great. But I don't like being away from home. Like I love my family and I love my home, and I'm turning into a homebody. And so, you know, the idea of like, you're going to be gone 20 weeks this year following the tour around, like I'd just rather die. I'd truly just kill me right now rather than do that again.
I mean, I agree with you. I think we're like-minded in that of like, I don't, you know, people are like, oh, you must get to go to all this stuff. And I'm like, I pick like 4 or 5 things, and that's plenty. Maybe even less than that. I do wonder, you know, I think you would do such a great job with, you know, like, and you could report on it a little bit, but I think also just I'm interested in how your mind works of like, hey, here's 10 theories I have about the Ryder Cup. And you could write and publish that book. And I think that would be, you have so much Ryder Cup knowledge and takes and thoughts and all that stuff. I wonder if, I guess all that to say, I wonder if there's going to be more like 100-page books in the future or 75-page books where you're just getting something tactile in front of a human that is very different than like what everybody else is producing.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I think like on the Ryder Cup front, I almost feel like I got everything out in my book. Like it just was, it was about the whole history of the Ryder Cup. It was about theories. I don't know if that would be the thing, but I agree with you. But yeah, like the way you kind of do it with your Rory book coming out. Yeah, I think there's a big market for that. And it's a thing you can do yourself, right? And it can be a physical copy if you want, or it doesn't have to be. And it's, yeah, and that's lower lift. You don't have to wait 9 months after you've finished it for it to come out because the publishing company is, has going through their whole process. So yeah, I think that it's a good idea, and it's something you need a big audience, which I think you have, but it's a cool idea.
Yeah. Okay. 25 minutes in, let's talk about Holderness and Born. Jason, you and I are obviously huge fans. We're both wearing Holderness and Born right now. You can visit them, hmbgolf.com. We are putting in a big spring order, post first major of the year order, for some new gear. And yeah, I'm excited about that. They've got some amazing colorways that we're going to throw Norman on, and yeah, we're fired up about it.
Their selection made it very, very difficult to pare down to like a reasonable order. Otherwise, I think we were up to like 10 pieces. We got to pare it down to like 5, which it feels like a monumental task because it's like you don't want to kill your darlings. But yeah, it's all good. You can't go wrong.
We got to sell more Rory books to to be able to put in a Holderness and Born order. But yeah, we've got the one that I think we're both really excited about is the Lawson hoodie. I think that's what you're wearing right now. We've got some more of those on the way. And yeah, check them out, holdernessandborn.com, and we will get to our Masters anti-narrative. So Shane, the idea here is everybody's got their Masters storylines, narratives going into this first major. This is a little tricky because you can find what's the quote about I saw on Twitter that somebody said Steph Curry couldn't shoot or whatever. And it's like, nobody's saying that,
Yeah, right.
So you can find any narrative. I tried to limit this to like, okay, these are like some narratives that people are actually talking about, and I'm going to try to put a hole in it and say like, no, actually, I don't think that's actually true. So I've got some that are specific, some that are a little more broad, but I'll let you start off. What's your first Masters anti-narrative?
So I'm reading yours in the document, and yours are incredibly well thought out and serious. Mine are stupid.
Perfect. That's perfect.
And it is a little bit like the Steph Curry thing, imagining what people will say and then responding to it that might not exist in the real world. So my first one is, I'm imagining in 2 weeks, Scotty's going to have a new kid. He's going to come in, and like the whole thing is going to be, you know what? Some things are more important than golf, blah, blah, blah. Scotty's going to be totally at peace, happiest he's ever been that he has a kid. Here's what's really going to happen. He's going to spend the entire tournament pissed off. Like, he's going to be the maddest he's ever been because he's going to have no chance to win. That's my hot take, is he's going to,
wow.
He hasn't really been playing that well, and he's going to, now he's got a new baby. It's not conducive. And we're going to expect this like Buddha, this serene Scotty, but he's just been chippy. He's been so chippy all year. I think we're going to get like fake fist pumps, all the annoying things he does. I think Scotty's going to be like just pissed the entire tournament.
Where are you at with Scotty in general? I remember you tweeted and wrote and talked about his press conference at the Open last year, and I find him obviously super interesting. I'm curious about like where you're at with him, just not even from like who cares about how he plays, but just from a coverage standpoint.
Yeah, I think there's like, I was talking about this the other day, and I was like, there's two Scotties. And when Scotty's playing well and winning, he is introspective and interesting. I love that. I think we all love that presser at the Open. And it's like really interesting. I think he's, then you're like, wow, this guy's has more depth than people give him credit for. And then when he starts playing bad, it just gets this like petulant streak. So at the Players, we were there, and Adam Schupak, it was after his round, he was in the flash area. Adam Schupak was asking him about his driver. what he was using, because he had intended to change it, I guess, but then didn't and put his original back. And at the end of that exchange, which was already chippy for no reason, Shupak was like, so are you going to keep the original driver in the bag? What he was asking was very simple. Are you going to go back to the other one after today or whatever? And Scotty's like, yeah, I think it's been a pretty good driver. I've won a few tournaments with it. And you're just like, he wasn't like saying that. He wasn't insulting your driver. He was asking a very specific equipment question. But he does this all the time. Like he did it with Brody last at Players Championship, actually, where when things aren't going well, he gets this thing of like, and it's always that specific thing of going, oh, what, you don't think I'm a good enough golfer? Gee, maybe I've done this a few times. Maybe I know what I'm doing. And it's just like, oh, that part of him I hate. I hate the fake fist pumps. I think that is so whiny and performative. So I like Scotty a lot. It makes it sound like I don't, but I think like when he starts playing bad, he is just like, there's the whiny kid that comes out in him, which if anybody's watched Rigamarole, I have that too. I get it, but but I don't think it's appealing. And I think it's like, you would want over time for this to kind of go away and there to be like a little bit more, I don't know, adult behavior or something.
I agree with that. I think two things. One, I think he views, and this is hard because it's two sides of the same coin. He views anything that is not helping him win golf tournaments as non-essential. Mm-hmm. And that includes you and me. That includes pro-ams. That includes just, and part of that's his superpower. Like I think his superpower is saying no to things. No, I'm not going to do your stupid like luxury car commercial, shoot 5 days a year. No, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to not going to do TGL. I'm going to practice every single day. And so part of that is like what makes him who he is. But it can also, when he's in a bad mood like that, come off like, yeah, man, like I'm just doing my job, like he did this with me at, during the phone call press conference last year for the Masters, where I said something like, hey, it seems like you're a little bit uncomfortable with being like the number one guy in the world, being famous, being all these things. And he's like, I don't understand the question. And you're like,
that a lot of people have done. Like I saw Xander actually do that to Shupak too, where it's like a very simple question. He's like, what's the question? I don't get it. And you're like, really? It seems very simple. Like it seems very explicit.
But here's the thing, Shane. Like I think a lot of these guys, they are more introverted than it seems like a professional athlete would be, because they've grown up playing golf by themselves.
Totally.
Like that's such an introverted thing. And so sometimes I think they just don't really know. And we've gotten the opposite of that with Rory, who's clearly extroverted. Mm-hmm. He gets a ton of energy from being around people and chopping it up and talking. But that's like not the norm.
Totally.
And so I think those two things kind of play into to Scotty's petulant. I noticed it at the Players last year. Like he was just like, mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Like it's weird. It's not. I think I heard Tron say like it's not becoming of the number one player in the world, and I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because it was an emerging thing at the Players last year, and then Morikawa came and blew it out of the water with his stuff. It was like everyone stopped talking about Scotty because Morikawa was like, I don't feel you deserve anything, and I don't respect you. Not really, but...
And then doubled down.
But no, I think you're right. I think that's a great point. And the one thing I would add is that along with being introverted, they suffer from the fact that they're famous and that they're good at golf. We almost perceive them as larger than life and don't almost expect that they're not going to be introverted or expect that they're going to have interesting things to say. So there's this double-edged sword where you're like you said, dealing with the shy boy who played golf his whole life and hasn't not like the rest of us where we've been talking our entire lives and we love it and that's what we do. And then all of a sudden we're there expecting to say something and they're like, what do I do? Even when it doesn't seem like it. Like Scotty especially he's a big guy. Like he's got that kind of like, kind of like jock laugh. He seems cool. He seems like the kind of guy, like the jock in high school who would have been like kind of a dick sometimes, but mostly you would have liked him, right? Like that kind of, and you're like, oh, that's who he is. And then sometimes it's just as like, he's obviously doesn't want to be there. And it comes out in these like sort of snappy ways.
Yeah. And to be fair, like I might act like I have no idea how I would be in that situation. He's put in a ton of situations where it's like, I'm exhausted of this. You like, we are annoying at times. So like, I get it. But at the same time, like, I think the hard part, Shane, is, the way Tiger dealt with that is like just never giving anything. And we got used to that of like, oh, shot 68, made some birdies, made some bogeys, and that was it. And then with Rory, it's like he gave you everything. He gave you like maybe too much. Like he gave a ton. And I think Scotty's hung up between like, I think he wants to give something, but like when he does, it exhausts him in ways that it didn't with Rory. And so he can get like kind of wound up a little bit. So all that to say, like, I obviously love Scotty and have written a ton of stuff about him, but the petulance can be there at times. My first counter narrative, anti-narrative, is actually the opposite of that. So I've heard a lot of people say, tournament's wide open, anybody can win it. Tournament's wide open. I think, a ton of people could win this golf tournament. Shane, I think if you beat Scotty, like, you got a pretty good chance to win. And if you look at he's played Augusta National 6 times. First one was the COVID one, November. He was T19. 2021, when Hideki won, he was T18, and then he won T10, win fourth.
Yeah.
So I think a good example of what I'm talking about is last year. He comes in, he was playing. I mean, listen, like, it's all relative with Scotty. Like, he always is playing very well. He came in basically 2.1 strokes gained tee to green per round going into last year, and then finished 4th behind Justin Rose and Rory, and then Patrick Reed was 3rd, which gets lost to history. But right now he's at 1.9, so he's right at that number. It hasn't looked great because every shot he hits is on TV,
right?
But I don't, and I'm not saying he's going to win. I don't think he's playing necessarily at that level, but I do think he has enough history there. He has enough, like, I know what to do here, that even without the very best stuff that he has, he's going to finish in the top 6. So, like, I guess what I'm saying is, I think you still kind of have to go through Scotty, and if you beat him, you're going to have a really good chance of winning this tournament.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think and it looks like you've kind of, not to get into this, but you put the strokes gain stats that you talked about, and you tweeted it, and I'll probably be misstating it here, but basically there's a certain threshold of having gained strokes gained where we've had something like 8 of the last 9 Masters champions or something.
Yeah, so I'll give you the stat and then I'll let you talk. It's 11 of the last 13 winners have been at 1.7 strokes gained tee to green in the 3 months, so January, February, March, leading into the Masters. The only 2 that weren't were Patrick Reed 2018, Hideki 2021, but it's a tiny list. It's normally very, very small. This year it's got 10 people, but Scheffler's on it.
Yeah, and looking at your 10, it's hard to argue with that, right? I mean, it's like the people that I'm like looking at Fitzpatrick big time. I was looking at Cam Young, Chris Goddard. I think will win this week. That's kind of my prediction for Houston, and I think people are going to talk about him a lot more. So yeah, it's hard to argue against this. Really, really makes me worried for my second take, Kyle, which is even less informed and is right on this one. I'll throw it in right now and we can talk about both of them. My second, I'm just going to read you what I wrote in my Google Doc. We're all gearing up. People are talking about Spieth, Rory, Scotty. I think we are due, Kyle, for a boring winner. I hate to say it, you're going to get Hao Tong Lee, you're going to get Corey Connors, Davis Riley's going to win, maybe the nightmare scenario, Ben Griffin's going to win. So this is my take, but yours is way smarter, and like, if you put a gun to my head right now, I would take yours in a heartbeat. It just felt, mine is a total vibes thing. Like, we've had kind of some really good tournaments lately, some really good Masters, and it feels like we're due for somebody. You're like, oh, what the hell? How did that happen?
So your counter narrative is people saying like, hey, a lot of great players are playing. Like, you're basically counter narrativing me.
Yeah,
like, I'm saying, hey, these great guys
I needed you to say what you did so that there was a narrative out there. Because like I said before, that there was nothing, but thank you.
Who's the guy? Oh, there's a handful here. Who's the guy that if they win, you're like, let's on to Harper Town.
Yeah, well, there's a couple ways to look at that, right? Where it's like someone kind of boring, where you're like, oh, Aldrich Potgieter wins or something, or Sepp Straka.
Yeah, but he's 20, or 20, whatever. He's
Yeah,
young.
I guess
That's at
would
least
be
interesting.
You're totally right. Yeah, maybe like Sepp would be a better thing where you're like, huh, okay. Then you have ones where it's like Ben Griffin, I think would be an example of, I don't know. I just don't. This is not really that great, that might be a little harsh on Ben Griffin, but do you know what I mean? Like the guys who are not necessarily boring, but that you're just like, I don't really want that to happen.
Yeah, Ben Griffin would kind of be like a, yeah, it would be good. Like he's good enough that you're like, yeah, he could win, but he's not like he's almost like a poor man's Max Homa, where you're like, yeah, he could definitely win, but he's not quite like interesting or fun enough to kind of gin up some like good narratives. I think somebody like Brian Campbell.
Oh, that would be tough. Yeah, that would be tough.
I'm just going through the field list.
How
would you feel if ZJ won?
That would be. I mean, that wouldn't be boring, would it? I mean, it'd be weird. It'd be so weird, but it'd be hilarious. I mean, it would be genuinely, that would be the funniest possible result, I think. Or maybe not funniest possible. It'd be the funniest result we've ever had for a Masters champion, I think.
I'm just looking at the list of past champions, and there's ZJ plays a part in like one of the most kind of like superstars and then one dud mixed in there. If you start in 2000, you go VJ, Tiger, Mike Ware, no disrespect to Canada, Phil, Tiger, Phil, ZJ. I mean, what a stretch with Mike in there in the middle. No disrespect to Canada, but
yeah, ZJ was kind of in it last year, by the way. I think he finished like T9 or something.
That's so crazy.
It was so crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so just to read my list here of the guys who have been great from tee to green in the first 3 months, it's Morikawa, Fitzpatrick, Siwoo Kim, which I think would be a hilarious winner. John Rahm, Rory, Scheffler, Cam Young, Ludwig, Sepp Straka, Chris Gotterup. So those are the guys that are just hitting the ball best from tee to green. And again, normally those are the guys that win the golf tournament. 11 of the last 13 years, it's been somebody in that group coming in. It was true of Rory last year. It was true of Tiger in 2019, even though people didn't, really see him as like a true favorite that year. He was still hitting the ball very, very well leading into that tournament. So, yeah, that's definitely a counter narrative what's the last one that we got that you're like that?
Yeah. So it's been a while. Like, I mean, will it maybe? I mean, does it go back that far? Then maybe Schwartzel before him. Because like Hideki's not, right? I mean, you wouldn't say Hideki is. You definitely wouldn't say DJ. Reed, I don't really think so. I think he was, primed to win a major at that point of his career. Yeah, I'd say Danny Willett. I mean, so it's been a decade. What about, is there a thing with the sixes? Nope. Phil won in 2006, so forget that.
And Faldo won in 96.
Faldo, of course, won in 96, and Nicklaus in 86. Well, there's actually the opposite with the sixes, except for Danny Willett.
So my second Masters counter narrative is the idea that the Masters starts on the back nine on Sunday. It doesn't. That's a thing that got rolled out there by, was it Dan Jenkins that first said that?
It's a good question. I don't know who that quote is from.
I think it was, but it's not true because so if you go back to 2005, Shane, the only people who have come from outside the top 10 after the first round, so after 18 holes to win the tournament, Tiger did it in 2005. Tiger did it again in 2019. He was outside the top 10 barely in 2019. He won that tournament. And then Rory last year. Those are the only, I guess that's two guys, 3 times it's happened. The Masters starts at 7:45 a.m. on Thursday, because if you're not in that top 10, it is, and I think there's legitimate like course architecture reasons that this happens. It's very difficult. Augusta National is a golf course where it's easy, quote unquote, to make pars and birdies. It's difficult if you're chasing, if you're ripping at pins on 11, and depending on where 15 is and 17, you can get into some bad spots and make doubles very quickly. So I think there are like legitimate reasons it's very difficult to come from behind. But if you add to it, last year, Justin Ray had this stat, 37 of the last 38 Masters winners have been in the top 10 through 36 holes.
Yeah, so there you go.
Now it's 38 of 39 with Rory, because he was in the top 10 after shooting 66 on Friday. So The Masters does not start on the back nine on Sunday. It starts on Thursday morning, and we're gonna have it whittled down to know like one of these guys is probably gonna win the golf tournament.
Yeah, great take. Great stats-based take. Completely agree. It's like at the time that came out, it probably sounded like genius because you're like, oh man, there's so much topsy-turvy stuff that can happen because of the pressure. And if it came out tomorrow, you'd go, oh, that's genius. But the fact that it's been repeated ad nauseum, it's like, yeah, it's time for a kickback against that narrative. You've done it masterfully, Kyle. I'm fully with you.
Thank you. What's your third one?
So wait till you hear this one, Kyle. If you thought my first two were bad, this one's just completely thrown away. All right, so the narrative is, Kyle, everybody's going to walk across Hogan's Bridge and be completely fine. I'm saying somebody's going to fall off Hogan's Bridge into the creek. We had a guy pee off it last year.
That was Ray's Creek. That was not.
No, it was off the bridge though, right? Didn't he pee off the bridge?
No, he was
Hogan's
on
Bridge.
He was on 13 and he was walking up the left side of 13.
Oh, in my mind, I have a picture of him on a bridge peeing. That's crazy that I remember that. Anyway, someone's going to fall off the bridge. I'm staying by it.
Who are our candidates?
Well, I'm hoping it's not a caddy because that would be less fun. So I'm hoping it's a player and not like a rules official or something. Maybe Bryson. Maybe Bryson takes a tumble on Friday off the bridge.
Did you see him fall in the bunker a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah. And we had John Daly falling. You probably saw this past weekend. That was very funny. I think things come in threes. We're gonna have a third fall. So maybe, yeah, I don't know, but it's gonna happen, Kyle.
I think Sami Välimäki seems like a good candidate to fall off Hogan's Bridge.
Bring shame to all of Finland. Like one of the stereotypes of Finnish people is they have poor balance, and so that's going to be terrible for them if he falls.
I've heard that. Who would be the? Oh, by the way, worst winner would be. I'm just again going through the field list. Sam Stevens would be a tough winner.
That would not be good.
Like there's some guys. I'm like, how'd you get in the field?
He was. Yeah, I only noticed because I looked at it for the thing I wrote yesterday. He was top 50 at the end of last year. Yeah, it's crazy. Some of them are crazy that you see that have made it. You're like, oh, that's super interesting.
Like Carlos Ortiz, he finished, I think, top 4 at the U.S. Open, so he got in.
Christopher Raiton, you're like, oh, wow. I wouldn't have expected that he was a top 50 player in the world. It seems like maybe he finished 4th in a DP World Tour event one time, but here he is.
He was top 50 also?
Yeah, he was as of December. I think right now he's like 52nd. And so I was looking up and going, oh, he's got a lot to play for. And then I looked at the field list and was like, oh no, he already made it. He was in the top 50 at the end of last year.
The crooked OWGR. Okay, I love that. I mean, people have been saying for decades that nobody could fall off Hogan's Bridge.
It's just you hear it constantly. That was Jenkins too. Right after he said the thing about the back nine starting, he goes, also nobody will ever fall off Hogan's Bridge.
You think it's more likely that somebody would fall off Hogan's Bridge or the bridge on 15?
Well, either one. I mean, I think ideally Hogan's Bridge, but I would take any bridge, really. I want somebody to fall off a bridge, Kyle. It just doesn't matter to me how it happens.
Are there odds out for this take yet?
I'm sure odds? you can make a market on Kalshi or whatever.
Yeah, I think the odds would be high. Everybody should get their money on it. After this podcast comes out, it'll, Odds Checker and DraftKings and everything. We'll put it on there.
Okay, my last one. I've got a bunch here, but I'm gonna go with. I actually might read I've got a couple bonus ones, but I'm gonna go with. I think there's a storyline out there, and I noticed this during the Players Championship. You talked about this actually on a YouTube video that you made, which I watched. I don't know if I commented on it, but I watched it. There's a narrative that Ludwig can't close out a big tournament. And I think that I think some of that's fair. I think winning big tournaments is extremely difficult. I think my counter narrative is that he can and he will. I think there's a couple things here, Shane. One, he shot 66 at Torrey last year to when the Genesis moved to Torrey, and shot 32 on the back to win that tournament by 1. So I think it's a little unfair for somebody that I don't know how many starts he has on tour 70 or 80 or something of like, oh, I can't close the big one. It's like, well, he just did. And how many times has he actually been in position? Was the Players Championship good? No, absolutely not. And I agreed with your analysis that, and yours was a little bit of a counter narrative of like, oh, what a cool customer. And it's like,
He
no,
looks so cool. Look at, he's smiling. He's high-fiving kids. Nothing bothers him.
Yeah. And you're like, I watched him swing. It looked like a lot of things were bothering him. So I think both things can be true. Like, you can be nervous and you can learn from it. This is historically the traditional path of a pro, is like, you learn from things, you get better, and this is Phil's story at Augusta, right? And a lot of guys. But I think the idea, the narrative out there that it's like, hey, if Ludwig gets close, like, he's not going to play well on Sunday. I don't think that is broadly true.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in that I think so much of a golfer's career when you're at this elite level is about how you respond to that first choke, because it happens to most people, right? I mean, maybe Tiger's the exception, but I remember talking to Chris Kirk for my first book. One of the first people I talked to, he talked about playing, I think, in South Africa, and just had a collapse. Like, he should have won on the Sunshine Tour or whatever it was, and afterward just going, this is really important how I respond to this, because hopefully I'll be in this position again. But you have seen people like Greg Norman's somebody where you're like, obviously his past experiences were always affecting him every time he got back there. So there are people like that where history will dog you in the clutch. But then you have people who overcome. I think like Rory's an interesting example of the next tournament after he blew the Masters. You know, he went and he was awesome in the U.S. Open and won. And of course, he's been up and down in pressure through the rest of his career, but it didn't wreck him. And so, yeah, you would hope for the same for Ludwig. It was so bad at the Players that there is a part of me that's going, I would worry if I were a Ludwig fan about that kind of sticking in his craw a little bit. Even before he put the balls in the water, that when, you know, that close up of the kind of towing the ball and the club was all over the place. It's like, man, he really melted down. He really melted down there. He just lost a ton of shots. I mean, it was bad. It was bad, but it doesn't mean it's going to be bad in the future, to your point.
My counter to that is Xander, right? Like, we saw this with Xander so many times, and then he wins 2 majors in a year. And you're like, oh, Xander's a great closer. And so I just,
yeah,
I think to you and I, who don't play a ton of golf, and like, we get nervous over, you know, 7-footers for an 83 or whatever. Like, yes, I think it's very different when you're just that. Yeah, it's these tiny things that make a big difference. And once your body gets accustomed to those, I think a lot of guys, especially guys that are stars and superstars, and I believe Ludwig is, it normalizes for you, and you do get better as you go on. So I don't know. We'll see. That's my take on him. Can I just read these 3 others to you?
Yeah, they're great. Please do.
Okay. First, let's talk about Jason. Let's talk about Saps Original. So Saps Original, energy drink, easy to drink, hardworking fuel, light, crushable, refreshing in a can, still delivers serious hydration and performance support. My favorite thing about Saps, Jason, it's made for real days and not just workout days. So after a long run, during travel, or doing absolutely nothing on a Sunday, which is what the 3 of us are pretty much doing every Sunday, which is absolutely nothing, watching golf. Appreciate Saps for sponsoring us, and you should check them out at sapsoriginal.com. Okay, Shane, here's my 3, and we'll just go through these quickly. Tiger playing the Masters is a big storyline. It's not. I don't care.
Yeah, agree. 100%. The whole thing after TGL last night, like, is he going to do it? And it's like all these headlines. It's almost people reaching for a different era of media, where it's like, we all care what's happening with Tiger. People care less all the time. If he does play, he's not going to win. Yeah, move on.
Yeah, I don't think that it's just I don't think it's a narrative at all. Like, if he plays great, like, I just am not going to think about it or cover it really. I mean, I would cover it, I guess, but yeah, not to any. I honestly, like, I'm more interested in if like, I want him to play simply because I want him in the press room to ask him about rollback, to ask him about PGA Tour, to ask, you know, all these different. We get so many State of the Union press conferences during the Masters, and his carries more weight than any of them. And so I think that will be. I think that would be interesting if he plays. I saw this floating around. Champions Dinner menu is boring. by Rory, I think it's good. I think it's fine. Like I think one thing about Rory that people need to understand is like, yeah, he's got a lot of different things on there because he's a people pleaser. He wants everybody to be happy. He wants, the South Africans and the Fijians and the Japanese, and he wants to please everybody, which is why in the the Canadian. He wants everybody to have something that they like. I thought the Champions Dinner menu was fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would ask people, have you ever tried to eat food in the UK? This is not like some winners, like Hideki, we're like, oh, sweet, Japanese food, this is going to be awesome. It's like, he had to do something special. UK food is terrible. He had to do, and I thought he did a good job. Yeah, Irish and British food is awful. But yeah, I like looking at the bacon wrapped dates alone, I'd be like, just give me a plate full of these and I'll be happy. Those look so good. The tuna looks awesome. You can't go wrong with Wagyu and seared salmon. The toffee pudding looks good. Can't eat shrimp. I'm allergic, so I would kind of ding him on that one. But yeah, everything else is fine. It's just if there's a criticism, it's sort of eclectic, or it doesn't necessarily flow. So if you're going to be like a kind of snob about that, I guess I can see that. But everything individually, I think, looks like it would be a terrific meal.
But I think it makes sense for him that it doesn't flow because, again, he's trying to please all 60 people that are there or whatever. Go ahead, Jason.
Are there, I was just wondering when the past champions go, but they're still competing in the Masters and they have this like big dinner, does that ever affect the way that they play? Because it's kind of a meal which is outside of their regular routine.
I've thought about this. One year Spieth said you had to roll me out of there.
Yeah. Isn't that strange? Like,
that seems bad.
Maybe during tournaments, you don't really drink a lot of alcohol, but suddenly there's like a $1,500 bottle of wine sitting in front of you. You're probably going to drink it.
Yeah, famously, Tiger would do his things and he'd have everybody else eat and drink and he'd have grape juice and then they'd sub in a different food. Just another reason psychologically. So
that's he's like a pregnant woman.
He's
serving he's serving absinthe. Like
yeah. Everything else is loaded. Yeah, there's vodka in the wine.
Okay, my last one. I don't know if this is actually a narrative, but you can definitely find it on Twitter. Rahm and Bryson are not going to be competitive because they're playing on Live. I call BS on that. My counter narrative is that they're going to both play a big role in this Masters. I think either one of them could easily win it. I think I personally think Rahm is just broadly underrated as a professional golfer. And Bryson's playing great, and he's gotten better here. He's got 2 top 10s in his last 2 starts. He's learned it. His iron play hasn't been amazing at Augusta National yet, but he has gotten better, and I give him a lot of credit for that, especially after the par 67 take a couple years ago. So yeah, I think they'll be super competitive.
I think so too. I think, and if you look at the data golf rankings, they're both right near the top of the game. One thing that's kind of interesting to me, but I almost feel like it's just a weird stat, but we still haven't had a Live guy win a major more than a year after he's joined Live. Again, this is a very small sample size. I don't really stand behind that, but we had like at the PGA watching Rahm on the back nine. It was like, ooh, that's not the Rahm I remember from Crunch Time. Bryson at the Masters last year, maybe a little bit. So I will be kind of curious about that if one of them's in the mix to see how they respond to the pressure of being like, oh, you're under the gun now. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I think there's the differentiation between. Can you close and can you get in the mix? And basically what I'm saying is like, I think they can be competitive, but the closing thing is interesting. Rahm was, it wasn't even that he kind of kicked away the PGA, but more so how he reacted afterwards, which I think he said something like, man, it felt good to like have real pressure on me again or something like that. And you're like, that's kind of weird. Like, I mean, it's probably true, but for him to say that out loud, I thought was kind of odd. So that's all I got. Jason, you got any Masters counter narratives?
Yeah.
You got any other hot takes you need to get out there, Shane?
No, just that here's one thing that's been on my mind. I don't know if it's necessarily a hot take, but Brian Rolap has all good ideas, I think. Everything he's doing are good ideas. There are so many people who seem invested in pushing forth this narrative that it's harder than you think in golf. You're going to have so many obstacles. You're not going to be able to do it. Kyle, as like an entrepreneur guy yourself, right? As like we like the disruptors and everything. I'm like, how about a little positivity from the golf world? How about getting behind, like, what do you want? What do you want? Everything to stay static and then the next TV deal to be like, $500 million or something? Like, come on. We need to be like a little forward thinking here. So that's been something that's annoying me lately, where I'm like, let's have a little positivity behind roll app. It feels like golf's traditionalism is very much invested in like, here's a big mud pit for you to wade through as you try to save the sport.
I guess I would say, who do you feel like is too deep in the negativity?
Joel Beal, number one. I teased him about this, the entire players. I was just like, I was taking on the persona of just like roll app's number one cheerleader and being like, man, why are you so negative, Joel? Like, why are you just getting down? This guy is like a hero. This guy is a visionary. And now he did write a story that was kind of like, it's going to be harder than he thinks, which Joel is incredibly smart, so I'm sure it's true. But I don't know. I feel like I've seen it in a couple different places, and unfortunately I can't name them now other than to throw Joel under the bus, but it's out there. The narrative's out there, Kyle. Believe me, the narrative's out there.
I saw on Twitter that Steph's not a good shooter.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I think the most encouraging thing about roll app, and I wrote some of this on for the Normal Sport newsletter, is like he's casting vision and getting constituents on board rather than the other way. It always felt like Monahan was like looking around like, what do you guys want to do? And then
that was a good mini Monahan right there.
And then casting whatever that vision is and being like, well, that's what we talked about. And it does feel like roll up's like, no. Like, I'm in charge. Here's what we're doing. And if we get 80% of the way there by horse trading or whatever, like then I've done my job. And that's a different thing than what we've seen over the past 10 years.
100%. Yeah, I'm with you. There's such a categorical difference between him and Monahan.
Oh, it's crazy.
But isn't it interesting that Monahan is kind of like fitting right into that number 2 role pretty well? I mean, if you kind of believe it, and like roll app was really nice to him at the press conference, and now it's like he might stay on for a little while. You're like, yeah, maybe this guy was meant to be like your consigliere and he's really good at it. But he's just not meant for the top seat or something.
Totally. I think that's totally true. Like people, I know people at the tour that really love Monahan, like just as a person. But there's a difference between being Tiger and being Colin Morikawa, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And not everybody is supposed to be Tiger. And I think that, I'm pumped about the roll up era. I mean, I tweeted this, but everything that he said at the presser, it was like, I feel like, is he in our texts? Like, is he in our, like,
when he said match play at the tour championship, I'm like, this guy's been reading my shit. This guy roll up is a huge Shane Ryan fan.
Kyle, we talked about this years ago. Like, I don't know why the PGA Tour or the powers who be don't gather up golf media podcasters. I mean, they're spewing out ideas like every week, and it just kind of goes into the ether like, oh, that's a great idea. But it feels like it's finally kind of hit home and they listen. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. Shane, not cautiously optimistic about you and your work. Pumped to read some master stuff. Pumped to we're in a one and done league. You're not in our fantasy baseball league, are you?
I dropped out this year. Yeah, I didn't do anything last year, and I was like, I can't put people through that again.
Yeah, I'm already regretting it. It's opening day as we record this, and I already regret joining the league. But we'll have plenty of opportunities to chat throughout the year. Appreciate you joining, and keep up all the good work.
Kyle, Jason, thank you guys. It was awesome.